The Survivor Series countdown is officially on, and there are only 21 more days left until the huge pay-per-view, depending on the time of this upload. What's even better is that NXT officially started the war between themselves and WWE after taking over SmackDown last week. The company has already started to hype up Survivor Series, and I can tell that all of you are also excited to see that these three brands are going to have a mega crossover event. This has gotten me even more hyped for Survivor Series because surprisingly it is my favorite pay-per-view of all time, and now that you add NXT to that mix, I think it's going to be even better. This is why I thought it would be a fun video to bring back the fantasy booking to show you all the matches I would have booked if I was in charge of WWE. Now, of course, some people are going to love my booking while others are absolutely going to hate it. I do see a lot of the negative comments talking about how they think my fantasy booking is unrealistic, which does not make sense to me. I always use wrestlers that are currently active, so it doesn't make sense how they could seem like they are impossible to happen. Maybe WWE just conditioned fans to think that the product will always have to suck, so they can't even imagine a fantasy world where the booking is good. Another thing I tend to see is people talking about how these new wrestlers are vanilla midgets and whatnot. No, this is just a message for all of you. Just stop watching wrestling if you feel that way. The talent is changing and we are getting more diverse wrestlers. If you don't like it, stop complaining and just don't watch. I didn't expect to rant this much about these haters, but let's get right back into the video. And before I do get into my fantasy booking card, I want to say that there are a total of 9 matches on the card. This is done because we will keep a score of who wins from each brand at the end of the show. Also, these matches are kind of tough to book because it's only Survivor Series and there isn't much of a build-up except for the fact that you want your brand to win, but I do have some nice twists and turns in the matches that I hope you will enjoy. I am also changing the way that NXT invaded WWE and booking the next 3 weeks of this month before the pay-per-view happens. Let's jump right into the beginning of the build-up, which is November 1st on SmackDown. In my fantasy world, WWE never goes to Saudi Arabia, and therefore all the talent is not stuck in that country. Instead, they will all be available for SmackDown. Also, it's worth noting that Daniel Bryan is my WWE champion on SmackDown, while Drew McIntyre is the Universal Champion and Aleister Black is the Intercontinental Champion. AJ Styles is still the US Champ as well. Before the show, there would be reporters tweeting that Raw superstars are expected to invade SmackDown on this night. In the main event of Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns, we see Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, and Randy Orton all start to make their way down to the ring out of the crowd. Once they get outside of the ring, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns stop wrestling and prepare to defend themselves against the Raw superstars, as they would normally do. This is when we all wonder, where are the SmackDown superstars? Why aren't they coming out to help them? Well, we get some backstage footage of the cameramen running around looking for where they are, and everyone is confused because all these superstars are beat up on the ground in pain. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns are yelling at the Raw superstars why they would do that, but they look just as confused, and shout out that it wasn't them who did that. Everyone's confused. The crowd is Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns and the Raw superstars are, and that is when you hear "shock the system." The entire NXT roster swarms the ring and destroys the Raw superstars as well as Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. This would have been a much better unexpected invasion, and it could have been one of the greatest moments of all time. I think doing it as a surprise and making you think Raw attacks SmackDown is a smarter route because it's now going to be Raw and SmackDown working together versus NXT. Both of these brands have hated each other for so long now, but now they need to work to take down a similar foe. Also, it's just a nice twist that would shock everyone and make NXT look like the most savage and dominant group of men. The new audience who does not know NXT will now view them as a better brand because they just outsmarted the main roster. I also personally find this to be a way more epic invasion than just announcing that they will be a part of Survivor Series in a tweet and having them on SmackDown because of the flights being missed. Don't get me wrong, that episode was one of the greatest things to happen in a while, but this was my way of doing it. The Monday Night Raw right after this, SmackDown superstars will head over to Raw. They will make amends for the time being and work together to focus on taking down NXT for what they did. Drew McIntyre and Daniel Bryan talk about how NXT started the war, but they will end it and show why the Little League doesn't play with the big boys. Something along those lines. Fast forward to the next NXT episode and a bunch of superstars show up to the Black and Gold brand at Full Sail and beat them down in retaliation. Raw and SmackDown are truly showing that they are on the same page and working together to take down NXT. After this, there would be 2 more weeks of building up the matches, and let me get right into the matches of the card and explain why I came up with them. The first match on the night will be the War Raiders, the Revival, the New Day, Nakamura and Sami Zayn versus Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, the Fashion Police, and Mustache Mountain. First, we will kick off the show with a tag team bout between the two companies. This would be an 8-man tag team match between the 4 best tag teams of each brand. On Raw, we would of course have the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions, as well as Kofi Kingston and Big E. And I also put Nakamura and Sami Zayn on there because they currently do have a little partnership going on, and they would add a lot of value to this match. Then, on NXT, you have the NXT Tag Team Champions, along with 3 other really good teams. You even have former WWE employees that could add a cool element because they could talk about how they were poorly treated on SmackDown, claiming that NXT is a much better home. This would absolutely be an underrated match because people would not expect it to be that good, but it's going to deliver. If you watch NXT, then you should know that they have one of the best tag team divisions in the world, and this would be a great opener to the pay-per-view. I would have the WWE teams defeat the NXT superstars in the opener to create some doubt and suspense for NXT. The fans will slowly think that maybe NXT isn't as good as they think they are. The next match will be Pete Dunne versus Randy Orton. The way this feud would be booked is quite simple. During one of the Invasion brawls, Randy Orton would hit Pete Dunne with an RKO out of nowhere. That was a really bad idea by Randy Orton because Pete Dunne isn't the type of guy to take shit from anyone. Therefore, Dunne personally goes after Orton the next brawl and even breaks his fingers with his signature move. Of course, Orton then challenges Dunne in a one-on-one match at Survivor Series, and this is how he got here. There doesn't need to be much of a build-up for some of these matches, and I consider this one of those matches. I personally think this would be a dope match, and that's why it's happening, really. Since Orton is nearly 39 years old, I think he would be okay putting over a younger talent. Pete beating a legend like Orton would be perfect for him and his career. Also, Dunne has that Orton-esque feeling to him, who is a rebel with a little of cockiness in him because he believes he is the best. The ending of the match would be Dunne reversing the RKO into his finisher and winning. The scoreboard would be 1-1 between NXT and WWE. Next up, we have The Fiend taking on the Demon Finn Bálor. The next match is part 2 between Finn Bálor and Bray Wyatt. If you recall, The Fiend absolutely rocked Finn Bálor at SummerSlam, and now we will be getting the rematch between the two. This time though, Finn Bálor isn't going to come just as Finn Bálor. He will be bringing back the demon persona. Also, it's worth noting that I would not have turned him heel by this time. He is still a face. I think the NXT return was great, but he should have came back to NXT and went on a losing streak. He thought he needed to return home to NXT, but he figures out that after losing for 3 straight months, he needs to return as Prince Bálor, the demon, the heel, the bad guy. So as of right now, he is not a heel in this booking. Also, The Fiend is not the Universal Champion. I think he should have been slowly built up to win that title, but that's just my way of doing it. So this is just a one-on-one match between NXT's returning Finn Bálor as the Demon and The Fiend. Although The Fiend is still victorious because he's The Fiend and you can't have him lose, Finn Bálor would have gotten much more offense and put up a better fight thanks to his persona. It still is not enough to get the job done, and WWE is up 2-1 against NXT. The next match will be Aleister Black versus Velveteen Dream. This is also another rematch between 2 of the best wrestlers and storytellers from each brand. Aleister Black is the Intercontinental Champion in my fantasy booking for this timeline, and that's why he has a featured match. And as badly as I wanted to add Velveteen Dream to the main event, I think he is better suited to tell stories in a one-on-one manner. Also, if you remember War Games from 2017, Aleister Black and the Dream stole the show, and I think the entire WWE Universe needs to see them go in the ring again. This match is the easiest thing to book as well. After Aleister Black's match with Apollo Crews on SmackDown, we would hear Velveteen's "ow" sound effect, followed by him getting carried onto the stage with his couch. This is when he issues a challenge with Aleister Black, in a long-awaited rematch that the world's been waiting to see. He is knocking on Black's door asking for a match. Aleister Black will obviously accept this challenge because he's not going to say no, and the dream will get in his head for the next 2 weeks and even defeat him at the pay-per-view after a brutal, hard-hitting match. Dream will get his revenge from 2 years ago and also tie up the score between WWE and NXT at 2 apiece. We then go to a cutaway with the NXT roster in the back acting super excited and happy that they are now tied. And it would have to be like the one from the 2002 draft where they actually looked excited and not the ones from the 2019 drafts. Following that, we will have Asuka, Kairi Sane, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, and Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Tegan Nox in a 5-on-5 traditional match. We finally have the first women's match of the show, and we will be showcasing the best women on all 3 brands. On Team WWE, we have the SmackDown and Tag Team Women Champions, along with Charlotte and Sasha Banks, going up against 5 of the best women down in NXT. Again, with these tag team elimination matches, there isn't much of a build-up I can do other than just having the teams be made up after the invasions going on between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. However, I can book the way the match happens and how it would go down with some highlights that would take place. Asuka and Kairi Sane will use their tag team advantage to work together and take out Tegan Nox. They are the only women with experience in tag team wrestling, and this is why they should be booked to look the best out there. Chemistry is extremely important, and it makes them look like a legit team. However, right after this happens, Bianca would jump right into the ring and take out that team and clear the ring. This is when Charlotte gets tagged in. Bianca would show her dominance and actually eliminate Charlotte from the match. Right after that, Sasha would enter the ring and start to perform high-flying moves, only for Bianca to whip her with her hair in the air. Io Shirai tags herself in, and we get a good couple of minutes of action between Io Shirai and Sasha Banks. Kairi then gets tagged in, and the 2 former partners look at each other's faces until Kairi spits the green mist into Io's face. This would eliminate Kairi Sane because of a disqualification, but also blind Io Shirai and allow a Bayley to belly suplex, which would eliminate Io Shirai. Bayley would quickly go and tag herself out because she doesn't want much to do with this match. She just wants to collect the check, and move on with her life. That's the kind of heel she's playing right now, and I actually love it. After that, Bianca would get eliminated as well from Asuka, and there are only 2 women left for NXT. But this is when Rhea Ripley gets into the ring and dominates. She beats up Asuka and Sasha Banks while Bayley just watches. Bayley is such a heel that has that F this I don't care attitude, and she legit walks away. It's not worth her time. Rhea then takes out Asuka out of the match and eliminates her. And now Candice and Rhea Ripley both beat Sasha Banks by hitting their finishers, and NXT is now in the lead with 3 victories to 2. Next up, we have AJ Styles versus Roderick Strong. Another matchup between WWE and NXT will be the United States Champion going against the North American Champ. And for any of you who watch NXT, you should know that this is the type of match to steal a show because Roderick Strong is super amazing in the ring. And if you pair him up with AJ Styles in the ring, I think they would seriously tear down the roof. This is just one of your typical old-fashioned mid-card champion match for the Survivor Series pay-per-view. I was thinking of making this a triple threat match with Aleister Black, but then it would feel like a Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT match, and that doesn't make much sense with the theme of the show. Therefore, we'll just give these two 15 minutes in the ring. The best way to build up this feud is constant brawls between the OC and the Undisputed Era. This could be a great tease for when they finally do the Baszler Club versus Undisputed Era matchup. Anyways, AJ Styles would get the victory and help WWE win another match, making it 3-3. There are currently 3 more matches left on this card, and this is crucial because it's truly crunch time. Which brand will be superior tonight? After that, we have Matt Riddle versus Brock Lesnar. You had to see this match coming, right? Matt Riddle has been talking so much trash about Lesnar for the last year, and I needed to include this in my video. Brock Lesnar is not a champion, so his schedule would be perfectly cleared for this matchup. I think we would get some entertaining promos between Matt Riddle and Paul Heyman. I would have Lesnar and Riddle go to the extreme with their mini feud. This would include things like Lesnar attacking Riddle backstage, or a huge brawl where a bunch of security guards would have to stop the fight, and even Matt Riddle beating up Lesnar at like his hotel room or something unique. They need to make this a very personal feud in the span of 3 weeks. At the pay-per-view, after a hard-fought battle, Lesnar would win the match. This would be the first match of many between the two because there's going to be a long feud down the line with Matt Riddle getting his redemption. However, for now, WWE has the lead 4-3 against NXT on the scoreboard, and things are not looking good for NXT. Following that, the second to last match will be Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. Rather than having the NXT and Raw Women's Champion featured in the elimination match, I think they should wrestle one-on-one. With Becky talking so much shit during the Ronda Rousey feud, it's only fitting if Shayna Baszler wants to fight her in a singles match. This will also add for an additional women's match, which is nice because the more the merrier. At the pay-per-view, I would actually have Shayna Baszler defeat Becky Lynch via knockout. She should not tap out, but when Shayna does apply the chokehold clutch, Becky would knock out while the referee would have to call for the bell and end the match. This would be the beginning of a long feud between the two women. With this victory, NXT would be at a draw before the main event, and that means the next match will settle who wins for the ultimate brand supremacy, NXT or WWE. The main event will be Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Dominik Dijakovic, and Keith Lee versus Daniel Bryan, Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins. The final match of the night is a traditional 5 vs 5 Survivor Series match. Anyone who watches my content knows that this is my favorite form of Survivor Series. It will feature the NXT, WWE, and Universal Champion along with the biggest stars from each brand. I also think there is a good balance of brute strength, high flyers, and technical wrestlers in this match. There's also a ton of storylines going on between the people involved in this match. For example, Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa are in a feud. Dominik Dijakovic and Keith Lee have been battling it out for a while now. Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan are in a feud for the WWE Championship, and Drew McIntyre just beat Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. There is a lot going on, but they must work together to become the winners. Let's get right into the match with some highlights and the ending of it. The match would start with Roman Reigns and Adam Cole, but Adam Cole doesn't want to go one-on-one with Roman Reigns, and he looks at Dominik and makes the tag, letting the two giants battle it out. We would also get Johnny Gargano and Seth Rollins wrestling for a bit because they would give us some awesome action even if it's for a little bit. Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre would perform some acrobatic moves between them. The spot where Drew is hanging on the turnbuckle but somehow throws his opponents over him would probably happen with Keith Lee nearly breaking the ring. Kevin Owens would hit Tommaso Ciampa with a pop-up powerbomb on the announcer's table outside, knocking him out for a while. In the end, we will have Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa on NXT, while WWE will have Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens. After Ciampa gets eliminated, it seems that WWE will be winning this match. Well, that's when Kevin Owens hits Daniel Bryan with a stunner and allows Adam Cole to pin Daniel Bryan. Then Kevin Owens tells the ref that he forfeits the match and Team NXT wins. The Undisputed Era come down to the ring and all look at Kevin Owens, who has an emotionless expression, only for him to start laughing and cheering with them and holding their hand high with the Undisputed Era armband. Kevin Owens is now a part of the group and will join them in NXT. This would be one of the biggest shockers ever to end Survivor Series history, and you can even consider it the undisputed Survivor Series screwjob. And that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Pllana, and I'll see you all on the next video. And I got this soul.